Hola.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Mario.
Hi, well, Harold. Oh, you're back in town?
Yeah. Johnny.
Yes, Johnny.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
It's Mem Aleph tonight.
Tonight.
See.
Yeah, Mem Aleph.
Mhm.
Correcto mundo. Ay. He's going to have a hard time making 8:30 if you're going to shul at 8.
Yeah.
Hey, neighbor. Going on?
All good. Where's Ernie?
Maybe he's, I don't know. Urologing, who knows? I was just reading such an interesting article on Tulsa, Oklahoma.
On which Oklahoma?
Tulsa, Oklahoma has a
What about
program
Tulsa?
called Tulsa Remote. They'll pay remote workers $10,000 to move to Tulsa.
Wow. I've been there.
Not
It's nice.
only that,
Nice
not
town.
only that, but everybody's happy with development there because there's so many vacant parking lots and abandoned warehouses.
Really?
So there's like virtually no opposition to new business, development, whatever.
How many Jews are there?
I'm sure there's a Chabad. Rabbi Fassman Sr.,
Yes, he was
his
rabbi there.
first position was in the 20s, was in Tulsa.
Yeah, I know.
There's someone named George Kaiser who happens to be like the daddy billionaire who seems to be funding tons of initiatives.
Yeah, there's a Chabad there. Chabad. Yes.
What neighborhood is it in? Greenbrier or something like that?
I'm looking right now. Let's see.
I was on the phone with a patient, but someone in the community, so I had to stay off the video.
Mocholach.
Okay. Mem Aleph 41. So we force, even though Shichrur, if somebody used an Eved as a collateral, we say that Shichrur breaks the Shibud. But because of Tikkun Olam, we make the master free him and write a star for his money, for his value. Why? Shema yimatzenu b'shuk, v'yomer lo avdi, that the person who was going to get the collateral, the Eved, is going to point to him and say, oh, he's my Eved. And then that will be Motzi Shema for his children that they're Mamzerim. So Koifin is Rabbi Sheni Voisos ben Choirin. So the guy who was made the collateral for the loan and he gets the Eved, they make him free him. The course of Eved Shtar al Dam. That's our Mishnah. One who frees him, the original master frees him, and he pays the debt to the one he owed money to. B'mai kamiflaki. B'mazik shibudish l'chaver kamiflaki. You did damage to the collateral. Mar says, one opinion says that if you did damage to a piece of collateral, you have to pay to the guy who owns it, not to the guy who gets the collateral in the end, because he doesn't own it yet. So you pay the owner. Umar Sover, the Tanakama holds Potter. So the Eved has to pay, if the new guy freed him, the Eved has to pay the money that was owed for his freedom. Itmar Nami, Hamazik Shibuda Shel Chaver, Baran Machlokas, Rav Shimon Gamliel, Rabbanan. Ulo Omar, different parish. That we see. Who frees him? Misha Shichru Rabbi Sheni, the one who was going to get the Eved as collateral. Because Shua Sadin ain't ever chayv klum b'mitzvahs. Really, this Shichur is not worth anything because the second guy hadn't owned him, can't free him. But because Tikkun Olam Shariyot Salav Shem Ben Choirin, people are talking to him as a free man now. Koifnes Rabbi Rishon Voisoso Ben Choirin. The Kois of the Eved writes a star of how much he was worth, and he eventually pays that back. The Eved does not write it. Ain't a kosev. Ela Meshachrer, the one who frees him. Shekoshev, he's the one who writes the star. But my kamifki, the hezek shena nikar kamifki. In a damage that you haven't, like when you damage something, normally it's recognizable. Here, it's not a recognizable damage. Rav Shimon holds that even on a damage that's not necessarily identifiable, the Eved himself wasn't damaged, but by freeing him and there's no more shibud anymore, he caused a financial loss. So even though it's not nicker, shmei hizik. For example, if you magdish something, that's also a mazik that you can't see. It's a halachic damage. Umar Sovar, lo shmei hizik, that if you can't see the damage, it's not considered a damage. Ula my time lama karav. Why didn't Ula hold like Rav? In terms of the explanation of our Mishnah, Amar because Lisheni Rabokar, how can you call the second guy who doesn't own the guy his master? He just has a shibud on the guy. The Rav my time Amar Kuula. Amar Lacha Sheni Meshachar Karislay. How can you call the Sheni the Meshachar? He also doesn't own him. So both had problems in the way they verbalized their shita. Itmar. You pointed to a specific field, and you said that field is going to be used to pay off the debt. Vishat Fanar, and a river overflowed and damaged it. Ami Shapir Noah, which is the name of somebody. Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Ein a goy v'mishar nechasim. He can't collect from general assets of the guy. Since he pointed to this field, so now it's wiped out. The Malva accepted that field. Now that specific field is gone, he loses out. However, it's a general debt, and if this field gets washed out, he can get paid from another field. The halacha is if he said mikan tigvu, from this field you collect, the Baal Chov can still get from other assets. But if he says you cannot collect from anything else except this, then he cannot collect from other assets.
Then why, Ernie, are we so makpid, like when somebody sells a field and somebody wants to collect, that it has to be collected from that field dafka? Shouldn't it just be like, hey, the loker should say to the guy, go collect from another field?
No, you're talking about when we're toire from lekuchos. You're talking
Right.
about a normal case where there's a shibud. They can only be mitar from lekuchos if there's no other assets. If he has no other assets, and that's his only asset, that's the only time he can go get the field that he sold. You can only be toire from a shubadim if that's the only asset that he
Right,
has.
but why can't the loker say to him, listen, there are other fields in this guy's portfolio, take from a different field?
He can. Depends on the date of the loan and what preceded what. If the date of the loan preceded the sale of that piece of property, and that's his only piece of property, then that buyer beware. He's going to get the field taken away from him. If he has 10 other properties, then in a chanami, the buyer of that field will chase him to, you don't have to take this property, take other properties. And the Bezin wouldn't be toirif if there's other properties. Unless it depends on what quality of field it was. It is, Beinin is, Ziburis, and what the guy's entitled to in terms of his status as a Baal Chov. Is he a Ksubas Isha, which is a very low priority, versus a regular Baal Chov? So it depends. But if it's the only asset that he had, then it could be taken away from a buyer. Here, it's a different case. Here he pointed to the field and says, this is your collateral. Now, if he didn't say, and you can only get it from here, then in a chanami, if a flood washed it out, he'd be able to collect from other assets. But if he used the language, this is where you're going to collect from, and from nothing else, and the Malva accepted it, then he loses out if the field got washed away. Because his name is Shapir Noi, he has a nice name. He says bad halacha. Titargim Shmaitza, the only time that the guy cannot collect from other assets is if he used the sentence, and you cannot collect from anything else except here. And that's the final halacha. He made it a general apoitiki, which he said you can collect from here. But he didn't use the phrase, and it's only going to be from here. Then goyve mishar nechasim. V'im amar lo lo yelcha pure el mizu ein a goyve mishar nechasim. Tanya idich. Ha'isa sadeh apoitiki lebal chov l'ksubas isha. Two cases. There was a guy who loaned money, and he made a field in apoitiki, or he told his wife, and he wrote it in the ksuba, this field will be your payment. So an apoitiki is not strong enough to deflect it from other assets. Goyvi mishar nechasim. The Tanakama says either creditor can collect from other assets. Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer Baal Chov goyvi mishar nechasim. Isha eina goyvi mishar nechasim. She'ein darka shlis l'chazra bate dinim. Her kavana was enough to be miyached that field. She's not going to go around to different courts to argue. She accepted it as the source of her repayment. If it wipes away, she loses her repayment. Mishnah. We've been referring to this Mishnah in many Gemaras. Misha Chetzi Ohev Chetzi Ben Chayim. You had two partners who owned an Eved Kanani. One of them freed him. So that Eved is a half Eved, half Ben Chayim. So what do you do? Ohev is Rabbi Yomecha. But that's by Yomecha. He works for his one master one day. The other day he works for himself. Divrei Beisil. Beis Shammai Oimrim, Tikatem is Rabbi, V'zatzma Tikatem. He took care of his owner that he's getting paid one day. but you didn't help out the Evet. Lisa Shivcha Yevshar Shkvar Chetzu Ben Chayrin. He can't marry a Shivcha Knanis because half of him is a Jew. Bas Chayrin Yevshar Shkvar Chetzu Evet. He can't marry a Jewess, half of him is an Evet. Yibotel Valo Nivra Ela Pri Revi. He shouldn't get married. What about mitzvah Pruvu? It says in Pasuk Lo Sobra Ala Shaves Yitzara. The world should not be barren. Elam they tikun all them kaifnas rabba voisoiso ben chayrin. You force the remaining owner to give him a get shechur. The kois of shtar chatzidava. Now the Eved owes him money, and you can write a shtar if he doesn't have the money. 1 second. Hello. Yes. Yeah, that's the best thing. Yeah, get that. Make sure that it has. Make sure that it comes with a leg bag. One of those kits that has everything in it. Okay. Get some xylocaine jelly sterile. Okay. Jerry, it's better to have it just in case. And if you can't urinate, you call me. The Chazar Beis Hillel is Kedivre Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel paskin like Beis Shammai. Torah Rabbanan. Chatzi Avdo, somebody who frees half of his slave. Rabbi Omer Kono. It works. Half of him is freed. Chachamim Loi Kono. Doesn't work. He's not free. Omer Rabbi Machloikes Bishtar. When he used the star, Sherebi Savar, by Shivcha Charufa, it says Vavdelo Nivdasa. She wasn't redeemed with money, or Chuf Shalonitan La, or a get shikhr wasn't given to her. Either money or get or star. Make star lekesef. So there's a hekesh between a contract and money. Ma kesef ben kulo. Ubein chetzio, you can use money to buy a whole evet or half an evet. Avshtar nami bein kulo bein chetzio. So that's why Rebbe says it's koine. However, Rabbanon Gemiri chufsha lo nitan law, and then there's a gzeira shova to a pasuk about gittin, the cost of law sefer krisus. Meisha. Ma Isha, who gets divorced with a star, chetzia. You can't divorce half of your wife. Av evednami chetzia. So with a star, it also won't work half and half. Well, the kesef divrei kol kana. But everybody holds that with money, he can acquire the evet. Now, a shivcha who is peduya ve'ena peduya, lema b'hakamiflu, the marsavar behekesha adifa, that a stronger limud is hekesh, because v'havdelo nivdasa or chusha lo nitila appear in the same pasuk. Umarsav gzeir shava adifa, law versus law. The kulama Gzer Shava Difa. Everybody else, the Gzer Shava is stronger than the Hekesh. But Shiny Acha, the Ikala Mifrach, Mala Isha, any Yotze Bekesa. You could have broken the Limud because women don't go out of marriage with money. They need only way is with a star. An Evet can go out with money or Shichr. So that's the way Rabbah learns. Rav Yosef Amar Machloikas Bekesef. Machloikas Rebbe Chacham is not a star; is with money. Sherebi Savar, it says Vavdelo Nivdasa. We're talking about a shivcha that was half freed with money. Peduya ve'ena peduya with money. But Rabbanan Savri, we don't learn a halacha from there. Dibra Torah b'loshik b'nei Adam. Peduya Vavdelo Nivdasa. It's not to say that it works. means she wasn't redeemed at all, because it doesn't work with money. Well, bishtar divrei kol lo yikon. So according to this version of Rav Yosef, everybody agrees that if you try to free a slave, half a slave with a star, it won't work. Meisvei, Hamashachar Chatzi Avdu Bishtar. You try to free half of your slave with a star. Rebbe Omer Kana. The Chachamim Omerim Lo Kana. So to Yufta Rav Yosef, because here Rav Yosef said Bishtar, there's no machlokes. Everybody else Lo Kana. Here we have a befer shtik of Barais that says Rebbe says Kana. To Yufta, the Rav Yosef, to Yufta, we knock him out of the box. So Nema Bishtar Hu de Pligi. They argue by star. Ava Kesef Lo Pligi. So Leimet Tevet Yufta the Rav Yosef Petarti. Maybe it's a knocking him out of the box on both accounts. Arba Rav Yosef Pligi Bishtar. Really, they argue in both. Bishtar v'hu adin b'kesef. Hadika miflagi b'shtar. The fact that it revealed the machlok is only b'shtar lo dicha kocha shel Rebbe. How far Rebbe is lenient. Let's see how strict the Chachamim are. Famous answer: koich de'hetera adiflei. Everyone can be a machmir. It's much harder to be lenient. So the koich of hetera is more pleasant for the Talmud Bavli to report on. Toshma. Nemar v'havdei. You redeem. Yachol akol, that it's a shivcha that's completely redeemed. Talmud Lamer lo nifdasa. She's not fully redeemed. Iloi nifdasa. Yachol loimer, how can you say that she's a full shivcha? Talmud Lamer v'havdei. Haketzad. How do you feel both psukim? P'duya ve'ena p'duya. She's redeemed and not redeemed. That's b'kesef uv'shav kesef. Money. How do we know it works with the star too? That refers to a star. So far we've learned that you could redeem half an eved with kesef or the whole redemption with a star. Chetzev b'shtar minan. How do you know that you could redeem half of an eved with a star? Talmud loymar v'avdei lo niftasa o chufsha lo nitan la make each star lekesef. There's an equation between star and kesef. Ma kesef bein kulo bein chetzio. Kesef works either for complete redemption or half redemption. Av star nami bein kulo bein chetzio. Okay, that's the baraisa. Bishmal Rav Yosef. After you said it was a tiyufta, and he ended up saying that really the machlokes between Rebbe and the Chacham is both by star and kesef. So Hamani Rebbe, that because Rebbe said it works, it's kana. Elashitas Rabbah, that said that Rebbe Chacham only by star, but by kesef everybody agrees it's kana. So Reisha, where he freed the half of the slave with kesef, it's Kedivrei HaKol according to both Rebbe and Rabbi Gamliel. The Seifa that it only frees with a star is only Karebi, so you have a split Mishnah. Rabbi in Reisha Divrei HaKol, the Seifa Rebbe. Ravashi, the final redactor of the Talmud, didn't like that. So 400 years later, he came up and said, really, the Bryce is fully Rebbe. Elamasnis Diktoni Misha Chetzev Eve Chetzev Ben Chayrin Bishma LeRabba Mukim Lo BeKesef Divrei HaKol, because Rabba said everybody agrees it works with Kesef. El Rav Yosef Leime Rebbe Hiveloi Rabbanan. According to Rav Yosef's sheet, it's only Rebbe, not the Chachamim. Amar Ravina beEvet Shel Shnei Shutafim Divrei HaKol. It's not talking about a case of one man freeing half of an eved. It's talking about two people owning an eved. One of them freed it. That everybody holds that works.
You said before that a Chatzi Shivcha Chatzi Bechor lives with a Jewish woman. Is the Vlad a mamzer or not? You sure the Vlad is?
Yeah,
a mamzer?
the Vlad is an eved.
No, but the Vlad is not a mamzer though.
The same thing.
Why? For,
An Eved
for
Kanani cannot, it's like a mamzer, can't marry a Jewish woman.
no, but if it does that, what is the status of a child?
An Eved,
Eh, but not a mamzer.
it's the same thing, Elazar, it's the same, there's no practical difference.
So if the child, if that child is freed or somebody becomes a Jew, does the stigma go off of a mamzer if you say it's mamzer?
No, if he had a child while he was an Eved, then the
With
child is
with
an
a
Eved.
Jewish woman, a chatzi shifcha chatz bechor had or whatever it is, or even a goy had a child.
What?
Any Islam,
A Jewish, if the mother is Jewish,
yeah.
then the child is Jewish, but the yichus is going to be an Eved. A mamzer marries a Jewish woman. The child is a mamzer.
But what you said before was the case where you said when chatzi shifcha chatz bechor marries a Jewish woman, the child is a
They're not allowed
mamzer.
to. And if the
I know, but they
child
do.
is an
If it,
Eved.
okay, so what is that child becomes an Eved?
The child, the yichus Eved is the same as mamzer.
But so can some a goyish mamzer, if such a thing, if
There's no such thing as a goyish mamzer.
okay, I understand. So what this is, so if this person becomes a ger, so what is the status? Does he go off?
An Eved Knani, who is given a get shichrur, and undergoes mila and tvila, is a ger, is a Jew.
But prior to that,
his children are avodim. The product of a shivcha is a shivcha or an eved. They're not Jewish. If an eved has a child, the child is a bad yichus. If the shivcha has a child, the child is a bad yichus.
I know, but if it comes off follows a Jewish woman, the child is Jewish. The child is Jew. If
The child is a Jew, but who's got yichus of an eved.
So that you
Which
say
is
that
like
that's
a mamzer.
like a mamzer. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
The child would not, just like a mamzer who has relations with a Jewish woman. What is the child?
Well, the mamzer never goes off.
No, if a mamzer male has relations with a regular Jewish woman,
The child is
the yichus of a child is a mamzer.
A Jewish mamzer, right? But an eved,
if a Jewish man has relations with a shivcha knani, the child is a shivcha. If it's a girl, it's a shivcha, and if it's a boy, it's an eved. And the eved would need to get shichrur.
Yeah, but we're talking about an eved living with a Jewish woman. Eved, Jewish, Jew. So you tell me that
Eved Knani living with a Jewish woman, the child would be Jewish, but the yichus would be like a mamzer. Yichus would be like an Eved.
So if that child can, well, it doesn't have to convert. The child is Jewish, though, because it goes after the mother.
But it would be a mamzer, like I said.
In all regard,
Yeah, the product of an Eved is an Eved. It's not an Eved like a goy because the mother was Jewish. But the
right?
yichus would be like a mamzer. Because a goy, it's like living with a goy.
And that child. So today, if a
Like
goy lives with
all of the Maccabim, they eventually Herod killed everybody out, and they were all the product of avodim or mamzerim. That's how the Gemara refers to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Chesed, thank you.